Kleenex, Band-Aid, chapstick, crock pot. What do all of these things have in common? They're all objects that are identified by brand names rather than what they are. Today I had the incredible opportunity to visit one of those iconic brands, but here in the geology and outdoor recreation world. I am here today at Brunton International in Riverton, Wyoming. We get to get a behind-the-curtain peek at the manufacturing process of the most iconic geological compasses built right here in the USA. We talk with Lauren about their journey to entrepreneurship and reinventing something that hadn't been reinvented in over 100 years. And we get some hands-on demos by the CEO of Brunton herself. We also talk about Brunton's impact on the community, the geological world, what it's like taking on this icon, a brief history of Brunton, etc. So I am so excited. This has been such an amazing opportunity. Thank you to Brunton for having me out. This is not a sponsored post. They are just a few hours down the road from me, and it allowed me to stop by on my way south for a conference. So huge thank you for taking over half of their day to just let me film. And I can't wait to share it all with you guys. So let's go.
For 130 years now, if you've seen a geologist measuring rock formations, mapping, navigating through remote terrain, or working underground, chances are they're using a Brunton. The story begins in 1894, when a Canadian mining engineer named D.W. Brunton was working in Aspen, Colorado. He needed a more portable way to make precise measurements underground, so he designed something revolutionary, a compact version of the bulky surveying equipment used at the time.
It is a long history, and it's a pretty complicated history, so I'll try to keep it to a shortened version of it. But this is actually Brunton's 130th year. Crazy. Celebrating that anniversary, 1894 to 2024. We are highly certain, if not 100% certain, that we're the world's oldest compass brand. It's so cool. So that's a nice feather in our cap. The manufacturing history is that Brunton he licensed his patents to a company called Ainsworth. They made precision scales and measurement devices and also watches in Denver.
Okay.
And so early Bruntons, if anyone has a model that says Ainsworth on the front, that means it was manufactured prior to 1972.
Okay.
Bought the assets and inventory and moved the Brunton company up here.
Okay.
And so that was sort of the second phase. Bruntons have been manufactured in Riverton ever since then. So we're past that 50-year milestone. Brunton has stayed in this community largely thanks to several rounds of community effort. There have been several phases of ownership change that have threatened to move manufacturing to China or move headquarters to Sweden or Finland, which were some of the past owners. And it has survived that largely thanks to the community that still exists here.
So how did this historic brand become what it is today? Lauren and Dave's story is truly winding and amazing, and I love it so much. So let's hear it directly from Lauren.
So yeah, fast forward to now, to a few years ago. As a geologist, I had used Brunton since I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
And remember my first field camp project, when you're finally let loose and you're in your little group and you head out to the outcrop, super psyched to take your first Brunton measurement. And we get to like a pretty flat line sandstone, like pull out our Bruntons. And I think we argued for like 3 hours at the outcrop about how to take the low dip measurement.
Yeah, okay.
We couldn't get around what used to, none of these have it anymore, but that circle that used to be on the bottom.
Oh. I've used an older one, I think. Yeah. Yep.
The Compro still has it.
Okay.
But it gets in the way of something that's almost horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
So my first Brunton story is one of struggle, and one of not having a super intuitive way to take certain measurements.
Mm-hmm.
I continued to use Bruntons throughout undergrad and then master's work, and then additional work with the Colorado Geological Survey. And then I landed a job teaching at Fort Lewis College in Durango. And it's about 5 years into teaching a lot of field methods. I was at an outcrop in Durango and had just kind of let the students go, and had noticed again, like we were just reviewing even like how to take a striking dip and how to take a trend and plunge. But I was at an outcrop with a really nice slicken line surface. And I sat there fiddling with my spiral notebook. I wish a Brunton could take strike and dip just like this spiral notebook is arranged on the plate.
Okay.
And then I wish my Brunton could twist. Like, it all kind of came together in one session of sitting there, of like this new Brunton in my head.
Yeah.
Like it would be more intuitive and more efficient and a better teaching tool. I find them as like, this idea is not letting me go. We should do something. Let's try to make this. Let's see if we can actually like make a device that does what I think it might do. And so he helped machine it into reality. He taught himself how to mill metal, bottom mill, and we made prototypes in our garage. And at one point we ran out of aluminum and didn't want to wait the extra few weeks to get more. And so we melted down some climbing carabiners that we had in the garage. So we had a forge, and then we were anodizing the aluminum. So we had electric acid baths in our garage. It was a really weird winter. So we ended up with these functional prototypes and realized, oh my gosh, it actually, the model works.
Yeah.
It does what we thought it would. So kind of, here's I'll try to fast forward to how it happened that we came to own Brunton. It was a Monday morning, early in 2021, but I overhear this conversation with the Swedish CEO. Hey, Dave, what would you and Lauren think of buying Brunton? Like, just out of the blue. Like, I'd like to propose a question.
Okay.
And so one thing led to another. We figured out over the course of, it took a lot of 2021 to figure out how.
Oh yeah, I could be
two former educators. Like, Dave was a high school science teacher. I was a college instructor. And then living here, we had started to reformulate what we were doing, but definitely didn't have, the money laying around to just
buy a company.
Nor did Brunton have, it was so tied with other brands. Financially, it was kind of hard to unravel and show to banks, for example, how we could do that. So thanks to the generosity of the owner in Sweden, it's a seller finance deal, with some family help for the down payment, we made it work. I think if I were to sort of jump out of the situation and then in my imagination jump right back into where we are right now, I would be shocked with how things have turned out, because it was never our intention or really our goal to buy the company. It was to kind of, let's get involved so we can really launch this cool new invention. But certainly that's life. You never know what is around the next corner. Just kind of, we like to, accept challenges and take risks, and certainly care a lot about this brand and about keeping it here in the U.S.
Brunton compasses and transits are manufactured right here in Riverton, Wyoming. What amazed me is that this iconic brand was made in kind of a smaller town than I was expecting, so that was really cool to see. Each one is a testament to precision engineering with so much care and detail that goes into every single compass that geologists and recreational outdoors people use every single day. I 100% walked into this facility expecting a whole floor full of machines and robots and people in like Tyvek suits. But instead, I walked through the doors and found a dedicated, hardworking team that puts so much care and pride into every single compass that they put out. It truly was amazing to see, and it meant so much to me to be able to put names and faces. It just made me so happy. So let's take a look at the manufacturing facility here at Brunton, and let's meet some of the team members behind your compasses. While this is known as the Brunton Building, they share it with other local businesses and entrepreneurs in this beautiful, vibrant co-working space. We'll have more about this in the full manufacturing facility walkthrough tour coming up soon, but for now, let's skip to the manufacturing floor.
This is the actual production space. Okay. Pictures on the wall here used to be kind of Brunton's former brand images were really hunting focused, like in the binocular days. So there was like a whole series of black and white photos of bearded dudes in the rain with dead animals on their back. We're like, that is not our image anymore. So, we have our adventurers and our geology and our daughter holding things. We have quite a few people who have spent their entire careers at Brunton. Betty made transits for about 40 years. She was here through the change in buildings from somewhere else in Riverton to here, and really helped usher in the geo she's holding there. And we overlapped with her ever so slightly before she retired. But yeah, this is where the magic happens. A lot of the parts and pieces, like the basin lid and sighting arms, are sub-assembled in the machine shop. But then the fine-tuning, finishing touches are done here, where, as you know, the needles need to be set perfectly. Everything needs to be balanced, leveled, aligned. And so you'll see our transit team working on, each day it's different. They're working on different batches. They're working on different things. They're not all working on the same thing at once, which makes it fun.
Yeah, different every day.
Yeah.
In this facility, a small but dedicated team produces thousands of compasses each year, from professional transits to recreational compasses, each one crafted with meticulous attention to detail.
I like to go in order, though.
Yeah.
Hey, Clarence, can we barge in? Well, I'm going to just talk through some processes in here. A lot of our recreational compasses are made of plastic parts and pieces, and that plastic is injection molded. A lot of it comes from just down the street. Like literally here in Riverton, we source a lot of our base plates and vials and various little plastic bits that go into the recreational compasses. They arrive in the door blank. And so often this is the first step. Clarence prints, basically stamps various patterns onto those parts and pieces so that can then become part of compasses.
So I do just about 3 different things in this part of the shop. I do hot stamping, pad printing, and laser engraving.
I found this part of the process really fascinating, so we're going to include this full walkthrough in a future upcoming video on the manufacturing walkthrough. So keep an eye out for that.
So yeah, after Clarence prints, often one of the next steps, these are ultrasonic welders. They use ultrasonic waves to bind. This is something that Clarence would have pad printed on. Put the tiny little pivot, it's basically a pin on there, sort of sharp. So that gets welded on in a step. And then the other person will put, let's say, a clinometer, that one of the little tiny things that Clarence had printed on, and then a compass needle. Mm-hmm. And then place this on top, and then that gets welded on.
From individual components to finished products, each compass passes through multiple skilled hands. Parts are printed, welded, assembled, and tested, with custom options available for universities and organizations.
So this is our machine shop. Got Joe and Jim using various punches to punch out, looks like azimuth rings, and we'll see what Jim's up to over there. But this machine shop's full of what you'll see is very old machinery that probably came with Brunton from Denver back in the 70s when it moved from Colorado to Wyoming. Our recreational needles arrive, they're just shaped steel. And so first we paint them through a very tedious process. Then while they're aligned, we run them through a magnetizer. It's like literally that little box over there.
Whoa. With the cardboard box.
Yes, the toaster oven light thing with the mysterious cardboard box taped to it is what magnetizes our recreational needles. Proud of that little toaster oven.
Speaking of the recreational compasses, they're assembled right here in the factory as well as the transits. So let's take a look at how they're assembled. Essentially, all of the pieces are kind of put together and popped into place. Honestly, it makes a really kind of scary sounding pop, but they all click together. It amazed me to see how fast they go together and just how many this team can produce. It really was amazing.
So as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Brunton is possibly best known, at least by geologists, for their pocket transits. These are scientific tools that require a ton of precision and care and measuring. So this process is pretty detailed, but we'll try and simplify some of the aspects of it for you.
On average, based on the last few years, we make about 7,000 to 8,000 transits per year, and then 70,000 to sometimes 90,000 recreational compasses per year.
That's insane.
So, yeah, and you'll see it's a pretty small team, and we churn out an enormous amount of compasses per year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
After that, these compasses start to look more like compasses with all of the needles and everything else going in. One thing I found really fascinating was the care and consideration they have to put into these compasses for all the different magnetic zones and the way that like the bend in the needle and stuff has to be made to consider these different magnetic zones. So let's talk a little bit about this because I just think it was so fascinating.
The magnetic field is three-dimensional. It's multi-dimensional. It's not just that the needles are pointing to magnetic north. They dip. And so the closer you are to a magnetic pole, that needle's going to dip up or down and like try to dive into the ground. And so we balance needles for where batches are headed because we work with distributors around the world. So if it's headed to Australia, for example, it gets a southern needle and a special bend to the needle. And so that process is also something that this team does. They set the needles or set the compass on these aluminum blocks and then bend it to meet that.
And you can see how badly tilted that needle is because it's not set to that degree.
Okay, yeah.
Then it gets set up for where he's headed, and then you level it.
Yeah, this one would need a separate needle and all that for that degree. Because if I remember right, this block is like 12 degree, which is down south.
Okay. So when you're looking on the Brunton website and go to select your transit option, you'll see these different zones. Here in the USA, you're going to be Zone B. If you're not from the United States and you're not sure what zone you're in for the transits, omnisites, or geolites, if you go to the product page on Brunton, in the description, there is a needle balance section of the website. Go check that out, find your location, it's super easy. So if they're assembling these compasses here in the United States, how are they able to test all of these different balance zones for other places in the world, such as Australia, that has a completely different magnetic zone than we do here? As usual, I am obsessed with the solution for this.
Is a Helmholtz coil. We made this in our garage. My dad helped make it even. But what it does is runs current through the coils, and by adjusting current, we can simulate the magnetic field here in the center. And so we can set a balance and mimic, let's say we want to check our balance model and mimic what the magnetic field is doing to a needle in Sydney, Australia. So we tune it, we set that current, and we watch what the needle does. We made this little cutout transit. And so we can see, okay, that is working or that isn't working. Our balance zones are, and also see for our recreational needles how global they are.
Each Brunton compass, whether it be recreational or a transit, goes through rigorous quality control. Every single transit is individually inspected at least once before leaving the facility, ensuring the precision and reliability that geologists have trusted for over a century. Speaking of leaving the facility, let's see where that happens. This is not only where product parts are stored, but also where shipping and receiving is. So if you have a Brunton compass of any sort, it's definitely been through this part of the facility, both at the start of its life in pieces and at the end of its life in a box packaged and ready to go to you.
But that's really the full overview.
Yeah. Beyond manufacturing, Brunton has created a vibrant workplace culture. From a mini museum in the manufacturing facility that includes not only early pocket transits, but also an Axis transit signed by 2 Chainz. Yes, 2 Chainz. Let me know if you want that story. A product wall that shows all of the amazing products that are made right here in this facility, all the way up to a special bonus loft that I have to show you. What once was a storage space has been transformed into areas where the team can collaborate, exercise, and maintain a strong work-life balance, including a climbing wall that speaks to their connection with the outdoor community. How cool is that? While Brunton's manufacturing excellence is very impressive, as well as their facility, it's their commitment to the community that really inspires me. So of course I had to ask Lauren a little bit about it. One thing that, aside from being a geologist, that I love about Brunton and the brand is the community you guys have built and like all of the work you do within the community. So like my mom's a Girl Scout leader for the Girl Scouts of Montana and Wyoming. She says thank you for the kids.
We can't take all the credit for it. Brunton's always been pretty generous with giving back to their communities. We kind of live between 3 different communities. Like we have our geology community, we have our outdoor recreation community, and then we have a large tactical military side of what we make. So like our product categories kind of guide those 3 communities.
As both a geologist and an educator turned entrepreneur, Lauren brings a unique perspective to leading this iconic, historic brand. You know, it's such an iconic brand, and what you guys have done is not only carried on that legacy, carried on that iconography, but improved it. And like what you guys have done and probably plan to do is so amazing. So like as a geologist, as an educator, and now as the head of Brunton, like how has your background impacted like the access and where you guys are going in the future?
I like telling our story because I do hope that it inspires others to think outside the box a little bit and also not be so tied to what you have on paper as your degree.
Now that we've seen how these precision instruments are made, let's talk about choosing the right compass for your needs, whether you're a professional geologist or avid hiker or backpacker, or just need a little something to make sure you don't get lost. So what are some key factors that you look for when people are maybe picking out their first compass?
Yeah, it really does depend. Sometimes the advice we give is with direct compasses, like, do you need a mirror or not? And so people ask, okay, what's the mirror for?
Yeah.
And that applies to these transits too. The mirror helps with accuracy. Okay. So if you're trying to really sight a bearing, having a mirrored compass helps get more accurate. You can also then sight your angles. And so those mirrored compasses add accuracy and so versatility. Right. If you don't need that level of accuracy and you're pretty good with holding a compass in front of you and being able to sight a line, then the base like compasses that are all under $50 will get you like more than anywhere you need to go. And so yeah, we have from super simple things that you can just attach to your pack. So you always have a compass, to the little true arc that you just that's the one I always have in my backpack if I'm backpacking. And
Brunton's commitment to quality extends to maintaining these instruments for generations. Their repair program keeps older compasses working, while their school exchange program helps universities upgrade their teaching fleet at a discount, ensuring students learn on reliable, quality equipment. Whether you're using a professional transit or recreational compass, proper care is essential. Keep recreational compasses out of extreme cold or extreme heat, and away from magnets like your phone, big belt buckles, or refrigerator magnets. The transit compasses you don't have to worry about demagnetizing, but it is recommended to put in the case mirror side away from the button, and close carefully. Make sure that peep sight isn't facing down or else you could possibly break the glass. One thing many of you asked for was a demonstration on the traditional versus the axis transit. So I asked Lauren, the CEO of Brunton herself, to give us a demonstration of both. So let's check that out.
traditional strike measurement would be done along the edge of a Brunton, and you keep an edge on the rock, but then you pivot like this and like this until that level, the bullseye level, is level. So there's strike. And if you're in an awkward position, you have to be able to see the compass face, or lock this.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have your strike reading here, and then dip, you have to move the compass and get again so you can see the bubble level. I have a whole collection of, this sounds weird, but like students in awkward measuring configurations, like on the sides of cliffs.
That's amazing.
And that's red here on the clinometer. Needles, of course, in the way. And then dip direction, you can just kind of hold it up as a reminder of, is it dipping this way or is it dipping this way?
Yep. This is my first time seeing an axis transit in use, and I'm so honored to get to learn how to use it from the CEO of Brunton and the inventor herself. So cool. Thank you, Lauren, for giving us a little demo on this.
Yeah, the idea of the axis, I'll show you kind of the idea, the configuration that first popped into my head with the spiral notebook against the rock in Durango. It was something like this, where I was like, I wish a Brunton could take strike and dip simultaneously. What I just did was I took the lid and I pivoted it, and I'm putting the lid against the plane, and I'm pivoting like this along the main hinge, but then also doing this against the rock to make the bubble level, that round level.
Okay.
And then I press and release the needle button, and that resets the needle. And on the axis, you don't have to hold it down to lock it. It's like nice. Auto locked.
That's really nice.
And so generally you press and release it like 2 or 3 times and it's set. Then you can just pick it up and make your reading. And so we have strike here on the compass.
Okay.
And then the dip angle is here on the hinge. And there's this little inscribed bit. Mm-hmm. And the way the lid is right now, because I flipped it, is you want to read the bottom. Okay. Where it lines up at the bottom. So that's like a 42 degree dip.
Okay.
I could take the same measurement like that. It's just a little less pedagogically interesting. In this one configuration, you're showing your horizontal plane. Mm-hmm. Your line of strike is the hinge.
Okay.
And then your dip angle is, the compass is holding that dip angle. So you have this perfect teaching configuration of the compass itself.
Even though the design of traditional Bruntons hasn't really changed, innovation is still happening, and one particular tool caught my eye. Having spent many years working underground as a mine geologist, this tool is definitely something I would have used. This is the Miner's Delight Compass, named after a Wyoming mining ghost town. Developed from military specifications, this illuminated transit is perfect for underground mining, cave mapping, and low-light conditions. It's actually lighter than a traditional compass as well, which is really cool and would be really nice if you're carrying it on a mine belt. I asked you on Instagram what kind of questions you have about Brunton, so Lauren was kind enough to address some of those for us, including why the east and west are reversed, what's the difference between quadrant and azimuth, and how to set a declination. So let's check that out. So one of the most common questions that Brunton gets is, why are the east and west reversed on the compass? No, it's not a mistake that they've been making for 130 years. The answer lies in how these professional compasses are designed to work. On a recreational compass, you rotate the compass housing to take a bearing. But a Brunton transit is what's called a direct read or a direct sight compass. So you rotate the entire compass while the needle stays fixed to magnetic north. So think of it this way. When you're facing east, the north end of the needle points left, or what we know is east. So when you read the compass, that's exactly what you see, the E marking where the north end of the needle points. The same is true when facing west. The north end of the needle points to your right, where we see the W marking. The transits also offer 2 ways of reading directions, azimuth and quadrant. I myself learned on azimuth. Azimuth readings use a simple 0 to 360 degree scale, making them ideal for digital data collection and modern mapping. For example, east is simply 90 degrees, south is 180, and so on. Quadrant readings, on the other hand, divide the compass into 4 sections, stating directions as north 45 east or south 30 west. While this method was traditionally useful for paper mapping and pretty intuitive, it's less common today, making up less than 10% of Brunton's current production. The choice between azimuth and quadrant largely comes down to your field and application. Most universities now teach azimuth readings as they're more compatible with modern software and databases. However, some industries and organizations still prefer quadrant readings for their specific workflows. In reality, it doesn't matter which one you choose, they're still saying the same thing. You might just have to do some manual adjustments to fit your purposes. And finally, what about declination? Magnetic declination is one of those concepts that can seem confusing at first, but it's crucial for accurate compass readings. Simply put, magnetic north and true north aren't the same thing. There's actually a difference of several degrees between them, and this difference varies depending where you are in the world. For example, here in Wyoming, magnetic north is about 9 degrees east of true north. If we don't account for this difference by adjusting our compass, our readings could be off by those 9 degrees, which could mean being hundreds of feet off course over a long distance. Brunton doesn't set the declination for where you are, but it's super easy. All transits are designed with adjustable declination. So instead of having to do math in your head every time you take a reading, you can set your compass to automatically account for the magnetic declination in your area. Let's have Lauren show us exactly how to make this adjustment on a Brunton transit.
Okay, it's just that little screw. You just take like a flathead and...
Yep. And often you have to release, just like loosen that. That's a lock screw. Mm-hmm. And be very careful not to over tighten that. And then this, you can actually rotate the ring all the way around if you wanted to, for some reason. And then just tighten it again.
Okay.
Make sure it doesn't wander.
From deep in underground mines to the peaks of mountains, Brunton compasses have been guiding explorers and scientists for over 130 years. But what makes this company truly special isn't just the precision of their instruments. It's the dedication of the team behind them. Getting to see where these iconic tools are made, meeting the people who craft them, and understanding the care and pride that goes into each compass has given me an even deeper appreciation for the tool that's been my constant companion in the field. Thank you all so much for sticking with me through this long and detailed video. I had such an incredible time at Brunton, and honestly, I have so much more footage to share with you. In the coming weeks, we'll be releasing several shorter videos diving deeper into specific aspects of my visit, including my full interview with Lauren about her journey and vision for Brunton, detailed tutorials on choosing and maintaining the right compass for your needs, in-depth demonstrations of different compass types, and more behind-the-scenes footage with the amazing manufacturing team. If you enjoyed getting this inside look at such an iconic brand in geology, mining, outdoor recreation, and military, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of these upcoming videos. And let me know in the comments if you have any questions about Brunton compasses or what specific aspects you'd like to see covered in future videos. Until next time, keep exploring the stories written in stone.